now we're getting into kind of the... We've kind of been leading up to this, right? So
hey, this is a new game announcement. I don't know why we didn't put this in that section.
I moved it because I wanted to talk about the Treehouse event.
Oh, okay.
That happened today. And we're gonna do the new game announcement first. All right?
Yes.
The new game announcement. Now everyone was excited about it. Way forward. What are they gonna do? It's gonna be a new Metroid. It's gonna be the Super Metroid remake. It's gonna be some... No, we got none of that. Okay.
Well, we got a lot of debunking by Nintendo, like damage control.
Oh,
there
yes.
was damage control that happened. So here's what happened. Nintendo's like, hey, we're gonna do a Treehouse event for Paper Mario and the Origami King, today, and afterwards we're gonna talk about a brand new franchise that's being worked on by the people that do we were just talking Shantae and Way Forward, right? And they do a lot of Metroidvanias. They did the Mummy Demastered edition, which is on Switch. So they do a lot of really good, mostly 2D games. They're pretty solid developers. They've worked on licensed properties and non-licensed original works, their own IPs like Shantae and stuff like that. So solid developer. They're working on something. And then Nintendo, their hype started to build. And Nintendo's like, uh-oh, we can't have this hype. We know what's going to happen. we have to put the brakes on this. So then Nintendo's like, it's not any of our franchises. All of a sudden, people are like, oh, then it's probably Castlevania because they work on Metroidvanias a lot. They're fans of that. Maybe it's a Castlevania game. Because we did know it was an IP that is new to them to work on. And then Nintendo said, it's not any of theirs. Well,
what we got was certainly not what I wanted.
I completely forgot that this even existed as an IP.
All right, so what we got was Bakugan, Champions of Vestroia.
Bakugan.
If you're not familiar with Bakugan, it is a TCG game. It's a trading card game. Way back.
And a cartoon series.
Oh, right. Oh, I don't know it as a cartoon series, so... So let me just read the description. It's a all-new action role-playing game with an original story that expands on the hit TV series and brings the Bakugan universe to the Nintendo Switch for the very first time. The adventure takes players on the ultimate Bakugan journey as they befriend powerful creatures known as Bakugan. So you can do all sorts of things with these Bakugans. You can have strategic battles, master their skills, become a champion of Vestroia. Players can also play online, head-to-head multiplayer. Whoop-de-doo.
So in case you're wondering, Bakugan was part of the avalanche of Me Too Pokemon sort of things, right? Pokemon came, Digimon came, Bakugan was another one, and that one definitely ate the dirt pretty early on.
Yeah, it was like Bakugan, it was Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh! Yep.
Yeah, was Beyblade one of those?
Oh, there was a bunch of them, and I think the ones that kind of stood out and sort of ran the distance was Digimon, obviously Pokemon.
Yeah.
Digimon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Those are ones that kind of stuck with it. Everything else kind of just died. Some died a little slower than others. Bakugan was one of the ones that definitely died.
Not so much anymore.
Nope, it's back.
Now, here's my thing with this, right? It got the hype. Nintendo tried to downplay it. They really tried hard. The game looks generic as heck, right? It does not look interesting at all. From what I was hearing, like there was very little going on in terms of ambiance or music or anything like that. It just seemed very generic. Nothing really standing out at all. Nothing way like I wouldn't see this game and picture Way Forward making this game. Because it lacked so much character. It didn't make any sense. And then when they got into battles, right? The battles were even more generic. It seemed like they were on auto battle. I didn't get any of that. Like
it is auto battle.
Right. Okay. So even worse. So they're doing this auto battle thing, and then you as the player, so like those Bakugan are massive, massive creatures, and they're fighting against each other automatically, and then you're running around as a player collecting these little things to help power up your attacks. Like, what a dumb mechanic.
Where you're collecting. I actually like the. I like what they have here. Their execution's bad, but what they had was two, basically two. What's the word for Godzilla?
Gaia, not oh,
Kaiju.
kaiju. That's it.
So they got these big giant. They're not quite the size of a kaiju, but they're kaiju-like, right? They're
Yeah,
big enough. They're definitely big enough, right? You have these two giant things, right? Your Bakugan and the enemy's Bakugan fighting against each other, and they're fighting automatically. They're constantly going at each other. Meanwhile, you're running around this little tiny, humanoid. One's a kid, another screenshot. It depends on who you're fighting. The trainer that you're kind of fighting against, kind of like Pokemon, right? Both of you are running around this arena collecting these energy nodes that you then throw back at your Bakugan in order to. These energy nodes, the way they described it was it works like mana.
right.
So you're throwing the energy at them in order for them to build up mana in order to activate more of their bigger, intensive resource costing abilities in order to help defeat the other Bakugan.
Right.
That I like that. How they executed it, the animations were just sluggish, very rigid,
Yeah.
and it was like it was like so basic too. It was like they were kind of like slapping each other every like 10 seconds. They would
Oh,
slap each other.
I hate that. It looks so
And that's it. Yeah,
stupid.
it
And
was. Yeah, it
can,
looked stupid.
and can I also say, like, the people playing it and describing it seemed like they didn't want to do this at all. Like, like they weren't excited even when like they initially started talking about the game. The guy is reading it, so it seemed like he didn't know what he was talking about at all. Like he had no real part of making the game, and he just did. There was no enthusiasm there throughout the entire thing. I
It
don't
was.
know.
It was. Like the concept of what could happen here could be pulled off really well. Like if these two giant creatures were fighting each other in a more visceral, vicious way. Like it doesn't even have to be vicious, just visceral. If you could feel the
Right.
impact of the blows that they were dealing with one another, if those destructible environments and terrain, and the destruction that they cause would reveal or cover up some of the energy resources that you would then use. Like it meant their destruction, because they're large and massive, their destruction that they leave in their wake would manipulate the battlefield such that how you collect the resources would then get augmented by their chaos, their destruction. That is cool. That could be a very cool,
Yeah.
fun game mechanic.
Right.
And
Yep.
and if they were animated in a way where it looked like what they were doing was fantastical and interesting, then that would make what you're doing on the ground level interesting.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. The way they executed it just looked awful.
Right. Yeah. I think if you had that sort of mechanic, it wouldn't look like these kids are running around playing tag, essentially. Like there's like even like when these things they're just stagnant. Like there's no movement between like the two Bakugan. They're just kind of just staring at each other like rock'em sock'em robots and just kind of doing something like every 5 seconds. Like
Yeah.
that's terrible. That is
Like
terrible.
slower and even more robotic.
Yeah. Yeah, they missed the mark on that, and to like kind of like piggyback it onto like Paper Mario. Ugh, yikes.
Yeah, I don't know why Nintendo would want to show this. I have no.
Yeah, I
I
don't
guess
know.
it falls in line with the target demographic, what Nintendo believes their target audience is for Paper Mario.
Yeah, maybe that's some of it because when we get into discussing Paper Mario, I think that's a little bit of it. They didn't want to go too deep. They wanted to keep their target audience. maybe at a younger age. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
That's what
Uh,
they believe, but what actually happens is Paper Mario's for everyone, and it's especially for old school Nintendo fans like you and I.
yeah,
Because Paper Mario, at least the more recent ones, they reference the stuff that they reference, I guess from pretty much the entirety of the Paper Mario franchise, they've referenced reading stuff, right? Like in the dialogue and in the story stuff, right? They're referencing stuff that only old school Nintendo fans would get.
right.
You're not an old school Nintendo fan when you're, not even a teenager.
I don't know, man.
So that's the part I
All right.
definitely don't I don't get.
Let's move on from this Bakugan. All right, it's Bakugan. Get it out of
Gone.
here. Gone.
Yes.
What absolute? I'm sorry. If you're into this, please let me know at the Nerd Basement, Twitter. Let me know because what do you like about it? It just looks absolutely awful. All right, so Nintendo, we got quite a number of things with this Treehouse, right? So they went into a little bit more detail with this Paper Mario Origami King. I
It,
don't know. I don't know that this was absolutely necessary
it
because,
wasn't.
they already had shown us a lot of this. Now they did show us right from the beginning of the game, kind of to I don't know the first. They showed us the first like 10-15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Totally
And they
unnecessary.
did skip around a bit too.
Right. They showed off a boss battle. They showed off some of the mechanics as to what the toads do in terms
Yep.
of helping you in battle. They
The
showed
exploration through the world as it was. So the exploration part looks to be like the biggest one of the core pillars of this game. Also, the combat is very different from other Paper Mario games, pretty much all of them.
yep.
It's way more puzzle oriented, and once you sort of figure out the puzzle side, the rest of the combat kind of plays out in a very predictable, non-nuanced kind of way. So it's more about the combat is really more about doing the puzzle element to then get a better advantage during the combat phase of battles.
Yeah. Now
Except for
here's
bosses, that's weird.
now I've never the only Paper Mario game I've played is Color Splash. I see a ton of influence of Color Splash in this game, especially when it comes down to when he's throwing the confetti up in the
Yep.
air and he's kind of revealing certain like just that alone is so very reminiscent of Color Splash. And for whatever reason, that game is not well. I don't say I won't. Can I say well not well liked? Is that correct?
It's just look, any game that isn't the original Paper Mario or especially Thousand Year Door is going to be a disappointment to
Yeah,
Paper Mario fans.
I gotcha,
And
gotcha.
that's pretty much what it is. And I was on record multiple times since the original announcement of the Origami King. I was on record for being on the hype train, and I was on the hype train. It is official though. I am off the hype train,
That's too
pretty
bad.
much due to this presentation and the previews that have been going out from other places like Game Explain and other podcasts, IGN, etc. So I've been paying attention because I was wondering whether this was a return to form or not.
Right.
And that got answered. I have the answer. Shocker, it's not a return to form. It is not a return to Paper Mario 1 or 2. This is more a better version of Color Splash.
Yeah, it seems like it's more not it's not a sequel. It's kind of almost spiritual successor maybe
But it's
of
just
Color
like
Splash.
it's
An
think of it like
evolution.
well, it's part of the franchise. It is the next iteration of the series, but it's not a sequel storyline wise, right? It's just like how
Right.
Final Fantasy 1 and 2 are different, right? Or
Mhm.
Final Fantasy 12 and 13 are different.
Right. I mean there's some cool stuff that was packaged in here. I think kind of the new abilities like he's got that what do they call it the stretchy arm thing? I forget what they
Uh,
called it.
Thousand Fold Arms.
Yeah, so that kind of helps and It's done with motion controls too, so I don't know how that's gonna work.
Joy.
So it had that. Um,
Seems like such a pointless thing to include, but
Motion
they included
controls,
something. Well, just that as a mechanic, it doesn't look like it's offering anything that's interesting. It just
right?
seems like a mechanic that they're inserting into there for the sake of inserting into there. And the reason why they do stuff like that, because Nintendo knows that they shouldn't do stuff like that, either without a good reason, or or they if they do include motion controls, that they do it for the good reason, for the games that would actually be enhanced by it. Case in point, Breath of the Wild, right? The motion controls in there actually enhance the experience. The thousand-fold arm could be the same exact thing as mashing the A button, right?
Yeah,
In
I guess.
most of the instances that they implemented it, there are some like tipsy, some sort of rotational elements to some of the implementations of thousand-fold arms that could easily be handled by moving the thumbsticks,
Right.
one way or another, right?
I mean, we've seen like the very beginnings of it, so maybe they do something like that.
From
Um,
what I heard, the
yep.
thousand-fold arms don't get that much more complicated.
Okay.
They kind of stay in the realm of gimmick land.
Okay.
And now, what I was getting at is Nintendo is aware that they shouldn't do these things, but they are okay with doing these things for games that they feel are meant for a younger audience.
Yeah.
And that's the fault of Paper Mario. Nintendo still thinks that Paper Mario is for kids, especially this one. They're going actually a little bit harder on the kids side of things. Now the writing won't be so much. The writing is kind of meant for fans. But
Which
they're
is
still
which is
they
weird,
still have that
right?
mentality. And they shouldn't have that mentality because they have games that fill that role already. Kirby, Yoshi, right? They suit that audience already.
Yeah.
The Mario games themselves suit that audience already. Paper Mario did not need to do that.
Can I also say that they've removed or stripped a lot of RPG elements
Yeah.
as well for maybe kids' sake?
Well, they did that since Super Paper Mario,
All right. All right.
the third one.
That's well, they simplified it, right? I'm not
They
seeing
simplified
any.
it dramatically. Yeah.
I'm not seeing much of any RPG elements in here.
Well, it's still there. You still have the combat, the exploration, the NPCs, the world immersion, the longer sort of adventure story of villain, protagonist. You get party members, although you don't really directly control them. Mario can progress both in getting stronger, like character progression in that way. You can equip different accessories to augment yourself in some ways. How meaningful that is, I have no clue. And I will tell you this just from previews that it doesn't even come close to being as in depth and as interesting and and gameplay intensive as Paper Mario or Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. So
I don't know. I think it's a big reason why you don't even see Nintendo categorizing this as an RPG on the Switch. I don't think there's enough there in their eyes even to put it on there.
wait a minute, you need to confirm that.
You can confirm it all you want.
I'm gonna confirm that.
Okay. I bring this up on the Twitter account all the time. And I've had I've had people try to explain it to me as they don't want to if they categorize it as an RPG, they don't want to deter people. And I say to them, well, RPG has the most games in that category. Even Breath of the Wild, which is another one, a borderline RPG, is classified as a RPG.
On Breath of the Wild is not borderline. It is pretty much the bona fide quintessential example of an RPG.
Oh
But
boy.
Paper Mario is an RPG. It's just they have that elusive, term adventure,
Right. I
right? Thrown
mean,
in there. And it is adventure, right? And as I said before multiple times, like RPGs are adventure games.
sure.
So it's that weird. sort of quirky thing. They do have the whole time, hit the button at the right time to get
Like,
a defensive bonus
hmm
during combat, hit the button at the right time to get an offensive bonus when you're dealing your offensive attacks. It's turn-based combat system, but with that button handling, pressing thing, get some tangible real-timiness. That's a mechanic that was introduced way back in Super Mario RPG. And Paper Mario has been the game in the series to carry that forward. And as I mentioned before, Nintendo couldn't decide whether Paper Mario should hold up the RPG mantle or if the Mario and Luigi games should hold up the RPG mantle. And that's when,
what?
and they were worried about that way back during Super Paper Mario on the Wii. And
hmm
that's why Paper Mario deviated from heavy RPG elements. Meanwhile, Mario and Luigi stuck with the traditional RPG side of gaming.
Why not
And
both?
well, one's dead.
I know one is
So
dead now.
one is dead now, which is why I was confused why Paper Mario didn't go back to that. So it's still an RPG. This one's certainly more RPG than the other more recent Paper Mario games, but it's like not even enough. It's so light, as you said. It's very light.
Yeah, it's RPG light for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it has a lot of cool stuff like the currency. The coins actually mean something, whereas in a lot of other Mario games, coins mean diddly poo. But in this game, it looks like you can spend it on the toads. You can spend it on, was it more ring puzzle time or turn back like
yep.
time to figure out the puzzle. And then they didn't really. I didn't see
I
it
love those
anyway.
accessories.
Yeah, so some of
That is
those,
the thing. Yep.
so you can go back to a, looks like maybe a hub town and purchase some things.
There's a hub town. There are not only do you have your standard infinite use jump and hammer, but you can also get other items. I don't know, maybe there's other ways to get them, but certainly you can purchase items, and you'll probably pick up items from like chests and whatnot.
hmm
But these items that you get can be used in combat in different ways. For example, they showed off what was it, like iron boots or whatever.
Yep.
So normally when you jump on a spiny, uh, you would take damage. You wouldn't deal damage because they have spines on it. But if you equip iron boots, which they showed off, you can effectively do the damage without taking damage by jumping on the spiny.
Right.
So there's stuff like that you can buy, but those items they have a durability to them, so you use them a couple of times, and then they eventually break, and then you probably have to like buy more with your money, and you get a lot of money in this game.
Yeah, well, and they did make a point of that where, yeah, it looks like he has like 8,000 coins. Looks like a lot, but then if you really need time on those puzzles, if you want to get the toads involved, if you want to get the audience involved, that costs quite a bit. So I'm hoping, I think that's how they're getting around. That's the experience points. So, just like with Dark Souls, and I
Yeah,
think you mentioned maybe off air, Xenoblade Chronicles, just like exploration will give you XP.
yeah,
So I feel like this is more. I know it's not a Souls like game, but the Souls are currency. It's the way you level up your character. It's used in a lot of different ways, and that's where I think the coins come in.
yeah, yeah. And I'm perfectly fine with not having a level up system. I actually don't. I prefer games to sort of consider not doing level ups, and I think not if you can think of a good way to do it, I think not leveling up, not having a level up requirement for characters is a better way to design RPGs than just going with the tried and true level up system. I'm a
Right.
bigger fan of not doing level ups. For example, Monster Hunter, right, doesn't have leveling up, right? It does character progression in different ways, and I believe in more interesting and effective ways. Uh, Breath of the Wild doesn't have level ups. They do it in a different way. I feel a better way. You could even argue that the Metroid games, they don't have level ups, but they have character progression in more meaningful ways, in more impactful ways, rather than just having some stat bonus In some games, they make it more meaningful by giving you access to newer abilities, new skills, or new abilities, or better versions of the existing skills and abilities.
Hmm.
Those are fine and dandy. That's ways of doing level ups in a more interesting and meaningful way. But how many RPGs exist out there where you level up and all it is just a stat increase, and that's it?
Yeah.
And
I
now
mean,
you can take on enemies that are 5 levels higher than what you were before, right?
yeah.
Big whoop.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, it'd be nice to have some more meaningful or intricate ways to or have your character progress, but I'm okay with the traditional kind of way as well. But it
Yeah,
is kind of like nice to have a breath of fresh air, you know.
yeah, and that's what they do with this one, and I do like that. I do like the fact that they removed the level up system, and I'm not saying that they needed to,
Hmm.
but they do tie it to character progression because they're giving you not just gold but confetti, and
Yep.
both of those are going to give you ways of increasing your repertoire for Mario. Right? For example, confetti can be used to reveal new toads.
Hmm.
The new toads join your audience and give you access to more stuff, right? The bigger your toad audience, the more stuff you're going to have available to you. That's one thing. Confetti can, for example, create a bridge that then leads you to a heart that will then increase your maximum health,
Hmm.
right? So, like, it can literally lead you towards actual increase of character capability. So, and that's obviously coins are going to do that as well. So they got that in there. It's just they decoupled it from leveling, and that's perfectly fine. I'm
Yeah.
totally down.
Um.
But as we said before, RPG light.
Yeah. What another thing that they did that I was kind of mixed on were the boss battles. I like how they're kind of they even said it. They kind of reverse, right? Now the
Yep.
boss is in the middle and you are kind of on the outside, working kind of this path, right? I think that's really cool, really interesting. What I have a problem with are the actual bosses themselves. Like it's a like this one that they showed was just a box of colored pencils.
Yeah.
Like what? Like
Yeah.
I get it. Yes, it's origami. You're kind of going with like kind of the Yoshi's Crafted World type of thing, but no,
Arts
no.
and crafts.
Yeah, I don't. No.
Kindergarten, right?
Yeah,
Young elementary school kids do. So this ties in with their what they believe their target audience is,
yeah.
and to solidify that, that's where Bakugan comes into play, right? They think, oh, we're going to get all of the 10-ish year olds to watch our Mario presentation. It would be great to combine that with a Bakugan combination. By the way, the Bakugan fans are in their like 20s now, or
Probably late 20s.
yeah. So in that same audience, that's also your Mario audience or
Yeah,
older.
right. Older
Right?
probably.
So it's like Nintendo, really? You don't
And
you don't get it?
I do remember seeing other footage of different kinds of boss battles. Some were gimmicky, like the colored pencils, and others were kind of real Mario villains or whatever. I just hate that they showed this one off. I mean the whole presentation was awkward to begin with, just with the kind of people talking over each other and that whole experience.
In
Um,
the overly politeness, they had to apologize to one another
yeah,
every time they interrupted. They just had to say, "I'm sorry. Go
right.
ahead."
And then there was that 4 or 5 seconds of silence. I felt like the production could have been better. I understand that they're doing the whole social distancing thing, but I mean, here you and I are doing this, and I don't know.
It
They
was live. It was live.
they should not have had it live.
It was not live.
It felt like it was.
If they showed it as live, the quality seemed like it was like that was not live though. No way they made those types of cuts and transitions
Right.
live. No way.
It just if it had that feel though, didn't it? Like it felt like a live event, and
It did. They probably recorded it once, and they're like, "It's good enough. We'll just edit this hanky janky stuff together, and we got something."
Yeah, I don't know, man.
And that's what they did.
I will tell you though, and we are kind of putting this negative spin on this. I'm going to be getting the game. I know you're kind of off the train. The game did
Yeah.
review rather well.
On
Uh,
Famitsu.
yeah, on Famitsu, looking at the scores, we have a 9. This is based on off a 10 here. A 9, 9, 9, and 9. So we got a 9 out of 10, 36 out of 40. So not a bad score at all. Although I will tell you one caveat that, again, Color Splash, I believe, if you wanted to price check me on it, got a 35 out of 40. So one less. So I don't know.
It's definitely in the great land of scores so far, but me personally, so I'm off the train. I will buy it if the scores convince me that I should buy it.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm off the train. I'm, if it doesn't score as well as I hope it does, then I'm not going to get it.
Yeah. And I also got at GameStop, which I don't like GameStop for a variety of reasons. Because they're the only ones who had a physical piece of something. Here we are doing origami and paper and all this other stuff, and there's no like collector's edition for it. It's just this screams collector's edition, and we got
Yeah.
nothing. We got none of that.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe the whole coronavirus thing, trying to get a bunch of stuff like that together for it. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
It's so easy. It's a a sheet of paper with fold line instructions embedded into it. How easy is that?
They may do that for their My Nintendo, you get like silver coins or I don't know. I don't even know. The rewards for those are so sad now.